Holly T. Hansen, founder of FamilyHistoryExpos.com, has sent us on a mission, Nancy.
Oh, boy.
Priscilla, our little sock monkey's happy. She's our little travel mascot. So she has sent us on a mission as part of our Love Your Parks tour. She wants us to find as many family history stories and resources as possible.
Cool.
So, I thought, Nancy, that, one of our first parks on our Love Your Parks tour, our phase 1, I should say, back when it was Spirit of America tour, was Chiricahua National Monument in southern Arizona, the Wonderland of Rocks.
That's a really fascinating place.
It is beautiful. If you're anywhere in the vicinity of southwest New Mexico, southeast, southern Arizona, you've got to go there. It is absolutely amazing. So we have Suzanne Moody joining us. She's a park ranger and chief of interpretation at Chiricahua National Monument joining us here. And she took us on a tour when we were there.
Yes, she did.
Actually, two. She took us one at Faraway Ranch, which is there, which we're going to talk about today. And she took us on a bit of a hike.
Yes.
And then she sent us on a longer hike.
I know.
I remember
she says,
that.
Okay, I'm going back. No, you guys go that way.
Yes. She is joining us to share our first story, our first installment of the Mission Possible Story series on family history. And I encourage you all to go have a look at the park website. It's nps.gov/CHIR. Welcome, Suzanne. How are you?
Doing very well. Welcome to you guys as well.
Hey, it is good to have you back, and I was going to say back. Yeah, I feel like we should be sitting with you right now in Faraway Ranch, right?
Oh, most definitely. Yes, it has been a while.
Years.
So good to hear from you again.
Yeah, you too. You're very excited. When I look at what we're doing in regards to getting family history, and I thought, meeting Holly, we've only talked with her on air quite a few times now. We do a special third Friday family history show. It dawned on us that there is so much family history in national parks, and we had no idea until we started talking with her about it. And I was going through photos. I went, oh my gosh, Faraway Ranch and the Erickson family. This is quite a story, and I believe you have more than the Erickson family when it comes to family history stories at Chiricahua National Monument, right?
Oh, this is true. The Erickson family was just one of a handful of families that made their home in Bonita Canyon, like their neighbors, Jehu Stafford and his wife Pauline, who had their homestead just a quarter mile away from what's now Faraway Ranch.
Okay, so and then there was one family on there you were talking about on the website that you're still looking for actual more information, right, in regards to family history. One of the families out there.
That's true. Sometimes those connections get lost over time, so we're always looking for additional stories. So if you have folks who are connected to either Faraway Ranch or Chiricahua National Monument in your family tree, give us a call or send us an email.
Cool. Very cool. Now, you've been in the area, for over 20-something years? You've lived out there?
This is true. I just had my 24th anniversary at the beginning of October, so it's been a while, but the time has gone so quickly, and it's such an amazing place that it's too hard to leave.
Man, and you have ringtail cats. Is it ringtail cats or is it quaddies? It's quaddies that I'm getting all confused with. You have both, right?
We have both, yes.
They're
both the quaddies and the ringtails are members of the raccoon family.
I'm addicted to your Facebook page. I see them all the time, and you sometimes have
so
bear.
Cute.
And it's so amazing. If you give everybody just a brief overview, because Chiricahua is one of these just absolutely unique parks when it comes to geology, but you've got hiking, you've got nature, and amazing nature. Like bear, a lot of people won't think that you're going to get bear in southern Arizona, but you do.
You really do. And, that's one of the very special things about Chiricahua National Monument. Maybe your listeners think all of southern Arizona is sand and cactus and 120 degrees, but actually Chiricahua National Monument is in the foothills of the mountains. So even at the lowest elevation, we start out at 5,200 feet down by Faraway Ranch, and the scenic drive will continue 8 miles and come to an end at Masai Point, where it's almost 7,000 feet in elevation. And the area is covered with pine trees and oak trees and just a good mix of plants and animals, not only from the Rocky Mountains, but also Mexico's Sierra Madre Mountains, since we're so close to the border, along with touches of even 2 deserts, both the Sonoran Desert to the southwest and the Chihuahuan Desert to the southeast. And then you've got all that human history, so it's a fantastic place, something for everyone to explore.
And Native American history, the Apache, right? The Apaches called it the land of standing up rocks, and Cochise. So you're part of the Cochise stronghold, right?
Correct. Cochise was probably the most famous Chiricahua Apache leader, and this whole, what today is southeast Arizona corner, was part of his and his family's home territory. So yes, they used the water and edible plants and did hunting in the lower canyon areas here.
And one thing I also want to touch on, because this is something that when we stayed in Wilcox, Arizona, so you're not that far from Tucson.
Correct.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's just about an hour and a half to 2 hour drive from Tucson, or Wilcox. The closest community is only a 45-minute drive. And
that's got some history there with some country legends out there too.
Yes.
The Rex Allen. We got Rex Allen. So you've got Wilcox and orchards out there and wineries. You're in the wine area, so visitors. Not only do you get nature and all this human history, but you've got wine and apple pie. Some of the best apple pie at Apple Annie's, from what I heard. They've made it big time in I think USA Today named them the best apple pie. So there you go. It's a fun area. But what's also interesting is so you can get in there from Wilcox, but you're also connected to Fort Bowie, and I believe that actually connects to the family we're going to be talking today, the Erickson family. So Fort Bowie, definitely some really rich history. You've got Geronimo, the Apache Wars. You've got, the actual Civil War history and the California column going through there. But this isn't that far. So if anyone goes to Chiricahua, they need to add Fort Bowie to their list and vice versa, right?
Oh, definitely, yes. And even though there's not much of the original Fort Bowie structures left, it's bits of walls and foundations, but because you do a fairly easy 1.5-mile walk from the trailhead along Apache Pass Road up to the remains of the Fort and Visitor Center, you can really get a feel for the area and what it might have been like back in the 1800s.
Very cool, very cool. So now, Faraway Ranch, just this I was going to say it's like a house, but it's like a early day resort. And this Erickson family is so fascinating because it's immigrant history. It is women's history, amazing women in this family. There's military. There's national monument, the creation of our national monument system, tourism history, ranching history. I mean, there's so much in this one building. What happened there? Tell us the Ericksons. This was a couple. Did they meet in Sweden? Because they're Swedish, right? Did they meet in Sweden?
That's a good question because I think most people assume that Neil and Emma were married in Sweden before they came to America, but that's not the case. So maybe like most of our ancestors, Neil and Emma were folks who left family, friends, and home, and you're right, it was from Sweden, and came to America in the 1800s to make a better life for themselves. So they didn't know each other in Sweden. In fact, they met at a place called Fort Craig in south central New Mexico, where Neil, of course, was working as a soldier, and Emma was working as a housekeeper and paid companion for one of the officer families. And so to find someone from your own country, they became extremely close friends, although, unfortunately, Emma refused to marry Neil, according to family legend. She had wanted her own little house and was carefully saving her money, and poor Neil was not an officer, and Emma's father had been an officer in the Swedish Army, so Emma had her standards, and poor Neil just wasn't quite cutting it. And then, of course, military life separated them for a few years until they met again over at Fort Bowie, and that's when Neil convinced Emma to marry him.
Wow. And then says here, we're in the middle of nowhere. Let's settle down here.
Yeah, it's like you don't really have that many people to choose from.
Yeah, because didn't he also? I mean, he served in the military, but he was also part of the wars, right? The Apache Wars. He was
correct. Yes, Neil was. Yes.
Wow.
Although it's interesting, in later years he definitely became sympathetic to the Chiricahua Apache cause. And was instrumental in help naming places in Chiricahua National Monument, like Masai Point, that was named in honor of one of the Chiricahua Apache warriors.
Okay, so So where's Bonita Canyon? Because it's been a few. Obviously, we need to come back to the park. Seriously, you're not that far away from us right now. But where is Bonita Canyon? Is it within the park, or within the monument?
Correct. Yes, Bonita Canyon is the main canyon here within Chiricahua National Monument. So when you enter the monument, you're at the mouth of the canyon, and then it continues 8 miles up to the end of the road, which is a grand scenic overview you might remember called Masai Point. Bonita Creek kind of parallels or zigzags back and forth underneath the scenic drive as well.
Oh, I remember that.
So you have
That's what floods during our monsoon season. Bonita Creek, I remember that now. Yeah,
exactly.
There was a beautiful deer family out there, and I remember all these beautiful those big white poppies that come out in the summer that we get out here. And I remember it's so beautiful. And where the Faraway Ranch itself, that ranch house, is I could live there. Really,
yeah, I could too.
I could, I mean,
my kind of place.
This was incredible. So, but it didn't start with as being such a big house. I mean, because even back in the day, they eventually had electricity, and I mean, it's amazing how they lived. But I feel like what's interesting about the ranch is it tells a story of the family, and we can talk about the daughters as well. But it started small, and it kept building and getting bigger and bigger. So it's got different, decades that is, preserved within that one building.
This is true. And so the Faraway Ranch story is actually showing the transition from that very earliest pioneer homestead. And in fact, it was Emma Peterson that purchased the original one-room log cabin before she agreed to marry Neil Erickson.
Wow.
And so they moved out to their home in Bonita Canyon the summer of 1888 with their baby Lillian. Now, Neil had been trained as a carpenter before he left Sweden, so it was easy for him to add on and make improvements to the home, which is how it became the two-story house that visitors can tour today. They went on to have 2 more children, Ben and Hildegard, and in fact, Lillian was living in the house up until 1975. So if it feels modern to you, it in some respects kind of is.
Wow. It's really fascinating because they had like a swimming pool. I mean, I remember that squirrel hanging out on the pool. Like, you don't have it's not filled with water now, but you can see where they had a swimming pool. Was that something normal back then for people to have?
No, definitely not having a swimming pool, although I'm sure the local ranchers' places would have liked one as well. So not only do we have the family pioneer history, but Neil Erickson ended up becoming the first Forest Service ranger of the Chiricahua Mountains starting in 1903 as a way he could financially support his wife and 3 children. And then in 1917, when he gets transferred to Walnut Canyon up near Flagstaff in northern Arizona, the 2 daughters took over management of the ranch because their brother Ben went off to fight in World War I with the Army, and it was youngest daughter Hildegard who had this brilliant idea of charging folks for room and board to stay at the ranch, and that is how Faraway Ranch became one of Arizona's first guest ranches.
Wow.
I want to
Good
say.
for her.
I know. It's so interesting. You have this amazing series, and I've got to link it up for everybody up on the website. You'll see the story up on nationalparktraveling.com and also in Parks and Travel magazine, the January through March issue, 19. Oh my! No, I was going to say 19. I'm like, what year are we in? 2019.
Yeah.
I'm like, how did that happen? You'll see it in there. But what's really interesting, you have this big series of it and some reporters going out. And so not only were they creating one of the first ranches, guest ranches, where people, because they were herding cattle and ranching cattle and doing all that. And then there was the trails that people could take. They could go swimming. So they were getting the full ranch life. So it's kind of like the beginning of Dude Ranches in a way. But weren't they also instrumental in actually making this a monument? Because I know, like, Gila Cliff Dwellings up in southwest New Mexico near Silver City is not far from you, and that was one of the first national monuments. Casa Grande Ruins National Monument, not far from you either. So this was kind of one of the beginnings, right, of national monuments.
You're right. In fact, it was Lillian and her husband, Ed Riggs, who were some of the many folks campaigning to get Chiricahua National Monument established, or what they were calling the Wonderland of Rocks. Because what better advertising tool, not only to have that outdoor swimming pool, but to have a national monument in your backyard. So another way to draw people to the guest ranch of Faraway Ranch. And in fact, Ed Riggs, Lillian's husband, went on to design the hiking trail system that we have in the monument today, probably with the eye to horseback riding, because that was the favorite activity for guests when they came to stay at Faraway Ranch.
Wow. So they have the ranch, and then they have the stables, and they're like, okay, you can pay for your room and board, then you can pay to ride a horse.
Exactly,
right.
Yes. And in fact, that's
Cool.
something, if visitors have a horse that they want to bring to the monument, you can still go horseback riding on those very same hiking trails.
Wow. And you know, in that series that I was talking about that's on your website that really gets into the family history, it talks about a reporter coming out. And that's what I thought was so interesting, because they were talking about this being a guest ranch and visiting with Lillian. And that time, apparently she was blind and going deaf, but she was running the ranch at that time.
Wow.
It's amazing. She was
Yes.
she was
so it was the Saturday Evening Post magazine, if folks remember that one, that sent a reporter to Faraway Ranch. And they nicknamed Lillian the Lady Boss of Faraway Ranch. She had lost her eyesight when she was in her 50s. She blamed her blindness on a horseback riding accident, and she had always had trouble with her ears and her hearing. However, she never allowed those conditions to slow her down. She would ride her horse every day. She would have somebody lead it for her, and when guests first met her, she was so comfortable with her surroundings that they didn't even realize she was blind. So just really a very strong-willed, independent woman, just like her mother, Emma, and even her sister, Hildegard.
Also, when guests came out, they were bird watching. I was reading about that, and so this is interesting because you think about bird watching today being one of the top, hobbies of this country. Bird watching, gardening, and so back then, bird watching was also part of the deal, wasn't it? I mean, I wonder if that's with James Audubon at the time going out and promoting birds. I know he liked to kill them, but
Nice.
just saying, way back when. But bird watching was part of the thing as it is today. Because you're in one of the. I remember seeing a trogon up there, and that was amazing. So
and that's one of.
That, Go ahead.
One of the interesting things about the monument, too, because we're so close to the Mexico border, about 70 miles as the crow flies, so that even we have a lot of Mexican species of birds and plants and animals. So even the blue jay that you see here at Faraway Ranch or within the monument is the Mexican jay instead of the scrub jay from Colorado or New Mexico.
Wow. Oh, wow.
So interesting, because you think
now
about...
we have to go back.
I know. Okay. It's easy.
Yes.
Easy. Put it on the beginning list. We have to go back to the first places on phase 2 here. The thing about the bird watching, the wildlife, that's so fascinating to me. And you think about them coming from Sweden and then being out here. It's like a night and day difference. What it was like to suddenly learn how to live in, this mountain desert, because it's like the high desert there, and how to understand about, snakes and bears, and it must have been quite a change for, Emma and Neil at the beginning when they first
Most
got
definitely. But the fun thing was they did have neighbors. The houses are already built, which was a major plus, and they had an amazing water source, not only the water of Bonita Creek, which was right near the cabin, but of course Neil's first project was to dig a well, which is 80 feet deep and still has water in it that visitors can see today.
Wow.
One of...
No, go ahead.
Oh, one of Emma's favorite quotes in her later years was that she oftentimes said, "I hate to die and leave this place," because she loved it so very, very much.
And they stayed there for a while, and Lillian, eventually, I know she passed away, right? And so, because at this point, the guest ranch was not part of the Park Service, like the monument was, but so they sold it, the family sold it to the Park Service?
Right. So out of the 3 Erickson children, Lillian, Ben, and Hildegard, all 3 married, but only Hildegard had children of her own, and they grew up in California, so would come and visit, but didn't have as close ties to the guest ranch. So by the 1970s, when Lillian closed the guest ranch operation, she was looking for a way to continue the significance of Faraway Ranch, and was hoping to sell the property to the federal government, which happened in 1979, because visitors drove right through Faraway Ranch to get to Chiricahua National Monument. And it made sense because Lillian and her husband Ed had worked so hard to get the monument established in the first place. So, which is how Faraway Ranch became part of Chiricahua National Monument.
And so when people come out, I know you took us on a tour, which is amazing. I think guided tours you can't beat that, man. When you go to a national park, if there's a ranger program, get involved, because you learn so much, you understand so much about what you're seeing, and the respect level of, wow, whether it's the plants, the animals, the human history, is just amazing. And you took us on this amazing tour of the ranch house, and then even the gardens. And the gardens have some of the original orchards, I believe. Like, you've got, like, you know.
Yes, we have one of the original pear trees and a couple apricot trees and some persimmon trees that don't have fruit very often, but every once in a while they do.
Wow, and you wouldn't think that again, right? But yeah, you guys have orchards out there too, pecans and apples, and out in that area. But is Faraway Ranch all open all the time, or are there specific dates and times that people can go in?
People should always check our website or our Facebook page as well, if that's possible, because unfortunately, depending on staffing, we're not able to do guided tours of the interior of the Faraway Ranch house every day. But usually on weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, we try to do. Right now, the schedule is at 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. The other fun thing about the house is that it's still completely furnished with all the family items, which is why it's only open on a tour basis. Now, granted, it's like a trip back to the 20th century, or maybe Grandma and Grandpa's house, or the home you grew up with, but the home is feels like the family's just gone for the day as you walk through the various rooms, or at least that's what we try to do.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. When we were in Louisiana, we went to Cane River Creole National Historical Park, and there was the plantation house, the Prud'hommes. It's a bicentennial farm. And when we went in, there's the history of the sharecropping homes. There's the slave dwellings. Some of the original, I think, only few brick slave cabins or quarters that they had left in the country. And you go in the plantation house, and you think it's going to be completely la-di-da, right? Because it looks like this big mansion on the outside. And you go in, and it was very similar to that, where you saw the Prud'homme family lived there for right up until I think the 1940s or something like that, 50s. So you saw the change of, you go in one section, it is la-di-da, and then you go in the kitchen and you can see here's where the family just, cooked something and ate it. You know what I mean? So you saw these different generations, and I think that's really fascinating, especially now of today. There's going to be, some of our younger generation, they've never seen anything like that. They don't know what it was like, what an ice chest is, or, it's completely different. Things are not automatic. So I think it's really fascinating for all ages to go through and see that, and I think that's what the Park Service just does, this amazing job of not only, showcasing and preserving, but really interpreting what has gone on through history, how we lived, of all types of people. And definitely you get that in Chiricahua. So people, the website is nps.gov/CHIR. It's always the first four letters, right?
Correct.
of the park. And we also have it up on nationalparktraveling.com. And family history, it's amazing. One last thing I wanted to ask you, Suzanne, is on the entrance, I remember seeing a graveyard. I think I have probably a couple photos. And so are some of the Ericksons buried there?
Yes. In fact, that's where you'll find the grave sites of both Neil and Emma, the owners and developers of Faraway Ranch, along with their son, Ben. And then off by himself is the gravesite of Mr. Louis Prue, who was one of the early ranchers in the region and had his had his ranch at the mouth of Bonita Canyon.
Wow. And lastly, I have to ask, any news on the ranger that disappeared? Because I remember that at Faraway Ranch, there was a plaque for the ranger that, was out on his horse and never came back.
Correct. That was Park Ranger Paul Fugate, who disappeared in January of 1980. No updates yet, although this past summer they reopened the case and increased the reward amount to $60,000. So if there's anyone out there who might have known what happened to Park Ranger Paul Fugate, we would definitely be interested in finding more information.
Wow.
Interesting, huh?
That's another mission. Wow, that's amazing though, because it's just a wild story. Just, boom. Yeah, wow.
It really is.
Wow.
He went on a walk from the visitor center towards Faraway Ranch and was never seen nor heard from again.
Wow.
Maybe aliens came down.
Oh, Nancy. Nancy. No,
all we know for sure is that there was not a bear or a mountain lion that got him. So, yeah.
Wow, I hope they find him. I really do. Thank you so much for joining us, Suzanne. Again, everyone, the website is nps.gov/CHIR. It's Chiricahua National Monument. It looks like it should be Chiricahua when you type it out. It does. That's what it looks like. You can also follow our tour and our Mission Possible stories. Go to loveyourparkstour.com. And we want to thank Holly because she sent us on the mission. And thank you, Suzanne, for, doing our very first installment. We like that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, and I hope people come out and visit me at Faraway Ranch and Chiricahua National Monument.
Nancy and Lisa, and of course Priscilla. This is Holly T. Hansen, founder of FamilyHistoryExpos.com. Well done on completing another installment of your Family History series on your Love Your Parks tour. Nancy and Lisa, and of course Priscilla. This is Holly T. Hansen, founder of FamilyHistoryExpos.com. Well done on completing another installment of your Family History series on your Love Your Parks tour.